When my daughter-in-law accused me of stealing her jewelry, I didn't cry. I just stood there, frozen, holding the teacup I'd been about to set on the table, while her words hung in the air like smoke. It wasn't the accusation itself that stunned me. It was the look in her eyes, cold, deliberate, and utterly unafraid. In that moment, I knew it wasn't about a missing necklace. It was something bigger. And I had no idea that her lie was only the beginning of how she would steal everything my husband and I built together. I'm Maria, 61 years old, a retired accountant, and for most of my life, I thought I understood people. Numbers made sense to me, they didn't lie. But hearts can twist the truth until it becomes unrecognizable. I met my daughter-in-law Sarah 3 years ago. My son Daniel brought her home one Sunday for dinner. I remember the smell of roast chicken filling the house, the sound of his laughter, warm, alive, the way it used to be before work consumed him. Sarah was beautiful. Not in a loud way, but in that polished, confident way that makes you feel suddenly aware of your wrinkles and tired hands. She worked in marketing, Daniel said, and spoke with the charm of someone used to getting what she wanted. At first, I liked her. I really did. She brought flowers for me, lilies my favorite, and called me Mama Maria within a week. She had a knack for saying the right thing, for making people feel seen. Even my husband, Robert, who was always cautious with new people, warmed up to her quickly. Robert and Daniel ran our family's construction business together, Turner and Son Construction. I had handled the accounts for years, but after retirement, I'd stepped back, leaving the two of them in charge. It was our pride, a business built from scratch after Robert lost his job in his 30s. Sarah started showing interest in the company early on. She'd ask about client meetings, offer marketing advice, and soon, she was helping Daniel redesign the website. I thought it was sweet that she wanted to support him. Looking back, I see now. That was the first door we opened. Life was peaceful then. My mornings were simple: coffee with Robert, watering the garden, a few calls with my sister Helen. On weekends, Daniel and Sarah visited, and I'd cook something special, his favorite stew, her almond pudding. We were a normal family. At least, I believed we were. But little things began to shift after their first anniversary. Sarah stopped coming by as often. When she did, she was always on her phone, replying to messages, making calls about work emergencies. Daniel seemed distracted too. Sometimes I'd see him glance at her, uneasy, as if trying to read something behind her smile. Once, I caught her in my bedroom, standing by my jewelry box. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mama Maria," she said quickly, laughing it off. "I was just admiring your pearls. They're gorgeous." I smiled, but something about her tone, that too smooth calm, made my stomach twist. Still, I told myself I was imagining things. The night of the accusation started like any other Sunday dinner. The house smelled of garlic and lemon. I was making baked fish, Robert's favorite. Daniel and Sarah arrived late, and she seemed tense, her usual charm replaced by clipped politeness. Halfway through the meal, she looked straight at me and said, "Mama Maria, I'm sorry to bring this up, but I think one of my gold bracelets went missing the last time we were here." I froze. "What do you mean?" I asked carefully. She sighed, like someone burdened by unpleasant duty. "It was the diamond one Daniel gave me. I'm sure I left it in the guest room. I looked everywhere at home, and it's gone." Robert frowned. "Are you suggesting?" "I'm not suggesting anything," she interrupted, lowering her voice. "But it was there before, and now it's not." The table fell silent. The ticking of the wall clock felt unbearably loud. I tried to speak, but my throat closed. Daniel's eyes darted between us, panic flickering in them. "Sarah, I'm sure it'll turn up somewhere." "Maybe. I've checked everywhere, Daniel," she said firmly. "It's expensive. I just want to know if maybe Maria saw it." She didn't even call me Mama Maria that time. Just Maria. I could feel my hands trembling. "No, Viv. I haven't seen any bracelet." She gave a small nod, polite, cold, and said nothing more. But the look she gave me said everything. That night, Robert paced the living room. "She's lying," he said. "You've never taken a thing in your life." I just sat there on the couch, clutching my teacup. "Why would she do that, Robert? What does she gain?" He hesitated. Maybe she wants to cause a fight between you and Daniel. Maybe she doesn't like how close you two are. But it wasn't that simple. I could feel it. Sarah's eyes that night, they weren't angry. They were calculating. Like someone testing a theory. The next morning, Daniel called. "Mom, don't worry about last night," he said softly. Sarah was upset. "We'll look again." His voice was gentle, but I heard the hesitation. The seed of doubt she had planted. It had already started to grow. And within weeks, that small lie would spread like poison, not just in our family, but through the company, through everything Robert and I had built together. Because the truth was, Sarah's missing bracelet was only a tool, a distraction, while she took something far more valuable. Our legacy. The weeks that followed were quiet. Too quiet. Sarah didn't visit anymore. Daniel came alone sometimes, bringing me groceries or fixing things around the house, but there was a heaviness about him. He looked thinner, the brightness in his eyes dulled. When I asked if everything was all right, he just said, "Work's been rough, Mom." Robert started noticing things at the office too. "She's there every day now." He told me one evening over dinner. "Your daughter-in-law, sitting in the conference room, taking notes like she's part of management." I frowned. "But she doesn't work there." "She says she's helping Daniel with investor relations. You know he hates the PR side." Robert's fork scraped the plate, that small, tense sound of frustration. "I don't like it, Maria. She's been telling the staff what to do. And Daniel just lets her." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept remembering Sarah's face at that dinner. Calm, precise, in control. Something was shifting beneath the surface, and I felt powerless to stop it. A month later, Robert came home furious. He slammed his briefcase on the counter and poured himself a drink before saying a word. "What happened?" I asked. "She went through the company's financial files," he said through clenched teeth. "The internal reports, even our client contracts." "What?" She said Daniel authorized it. That she's helping modernize the business. Maria, she had the gall to tell me I was old-fashioned. His voice cracked with anger. And something else. Hurt. Robert was a proud man, the kind who built his success brick by brick. The company was his life's work. To see it being handled like some plaything by a woman barely in her 30s, it broke something in him. I decided to confront her. One afternoon, I stopped by the office with lunch. A small peace offering, I told myself. Daniel wasn't there, but Sarah was. She was standing near the glass window, giving orders to one of the interns, her voice sharp and confident. When she saw me, her expression didn't change. "No quorums, no pretense. Mama Maria," she said, carefully neutral. "What brings you here?" "I thought I'd bring some lunch. For Daniel." She smiled faintly. "He's out meeting clients. You can leave it here." Her tone was dismissive, like I was an inconvenience. I hesitated, then said, "Sarah, I want to clear the air about what happened with your bracelet." Her eyes flicked toward me, cold and amused. "There's nothing to clear, is there? I told you, it was just a misunderstanding." "But you implied I took it." She tilted her head slightly, her voice still sugar-sweet. "Did I? I don't recall saying that." The way she said it made my heart pound. She was toying with me, and she knew it. "Why are you doing this?" I asked quietly. "I've only ever treated you like family." Sarah smiled. "And I appreciate that, Mama Maria. But times change. Maybe it's time you and Robert let Daniel handle things in his own way." Her words were soft, but the message was clear. Step aside. I left the office that day with shaking hands. And for the first time in my life, I felt like a stranger in my own family's business. Not long after, things began moving quickly. Robert was asked, politely, to take a step back from daily operations. It was Daniel who told him, voice trembling, guilt all over his face. "She says it's temporary, Dad. Just while we restructure." Robert stared at him, speechless. That night, he sat in his study for hours. I found him later with old blueprints spread across the desk, projects he'd poured his heart into. "They're pushing me out," he said quietly. "My own son doesn't even see it." I wanted to argue, to say Daniel would never betray him. But deep down, I wasn't so sure anymore. Sarah had a way of getting into people's minds, planting doubts, twisting words until they became truths. And she had found her way into Daniel's. The breaking point came one afternoon. 2 months later, I got a call from the bank. The company's accounts were being restructured. My name and Robert's had been removed as signatories. When I confronted Daniel, he avoided my eyes. It's just paperwork, Mom. Sarah's helping us with the transition. Transition? I repeated. To what? To a new partnership, he said hesitantly. Sarah's secured investors. They want a modern brand, not the old family-style setup. My hands went cold. You mean she's taking control? He frowned. She's helping us grow. But I saw it then, the fear in his eyes. The helplessness. He wasn't in control anymore. She was. A few days later, Robert fell ill. The stress had caught up with him, sleepless nights, endless worry. The doctor said it was hypertension, but I knew it was heartbreak. I sat by his hospital bed, holding his hand as machines beeped around us. He whispered, "Promise me, Maria. You'll protect what's ours." I did promise, but I didn't yet know how. When Robert came home, weaker but determined, he tried one last time to meet with Daniel, to make him see reason. But Sarah was there. Always there. I remember standing by the kitchen door, listening to their voices from the living room. Robert said, "You've let her take over everything, Daniel. She's not building a company, she's building her empire." Sarah's reply was calm, almost kind. "Robert, you've done a wonderful job all these years. But every empire needs new blood." And then she smiled. "You should be proud your son married someone with vision." That night, I saw something in Robert I'd never seen before: defeat. He didn't speak a word as he went to bed. And then a week later, the betrayal became public. At a company meeting, attended by clients, employees, and partners, Sarah stood beside Daniel and announced that Turner & Son Construction would now be Turner Group Holdings. A new board had been formed. Robert's name was no longer on it, but Sarah's was, right beside Daniel's. The applause that followed was polite, confused. Robert and I stood at the back of the room, invisible. She had done it. She hadn't just stolen our family's trust, she'd stolen our life's work. And yet, as I looked at her that day, radiant in her white suit, hand resting lightly on my son's shoulder, I knew something she didn't. I wasn't done yet. That night after the announcement, Robert and I sat in silence. The living room felt colder than usual. Even the ticking of the clock sounded like an accusation. Each second reminding me of how easily everything we'd built had been taken. Robert broke the silence first. "She used Daniel," he said bitterly. "She used all of us." I wanted to argue, but what could I say? It was true. Sarah had planned it perfectly. The false theft accusation, the slow manipulation, the helping with business operations. It was all part of her blueprint. And Daniel, my sweet boy, had become a pawn in her game. He visited once after the meeting, bringing groceries, acting as though nothing had happened. But there was guilt in his eyes. I saw it when he hugged me. A long, hesitant hug that didn't quite reach his heart. "Mom," he said softly, "Sarah thinks it's best if you and Dad rest now. Let us handle things." "Rest," I repeated, forcing a small smile. "Daniel, your father gave 40 years to that company. I did the books by hand when we couldn't even afford paper." He looked down. "I know, Mom. I need you to trust me." Trust. The word stung. Because I did trust him. But he no longer trusted himself. In the weeks that followed, Robert grew quieter. He barely left the house. Some days he sat in his study for hours just staring out the window. One afternoon, I found him going through old photo albums, pictures of him and Daniel in hard hats, standing in front of half-built homes, smiling through the dust. "I should have seen it coming," he murmured. "I let her in. I thought she was good for him." I placed my hand on his shoulder. "She's clever, Robert. She fooled us all." He turned to me with tired eyes. "Maybe. But you know what hurts the most? Daniel didn't stop her." And he was right. That was the wound that wouldn't heal. It was around that time I started noticing things. Small things. Whispers from old employees, hints from suppliers. "She's making big changes," one of them said over the phone. New accounts, new investors. But something's off. Money's moving where it shouldn't. I didn't know what to make of it. But I began to dig. Quietly. Carefully. Old habits die hard. I might have been retired, but I was still an accountant at heart. Numbers still spoke to me. And when I started comparing old ledgers with the new reports Daniel had emailed me months earlier, I saw it, small inconsistencies. Amounts rounded strangely. Missing receipts. Duplicate entries. It wasn't proof, but it was something. One morning, I went to see Daniel at the office. He looked exhausted, pale, with dark circles under his eyes. "Mom," he said, surprised to see me. "You shouldn't be here." "I just need a minute," I said firmly. He sighed, shutting the door behind me. I pulled out a folder. "Daniel, I've been looking through some of the old financials. There are discrepancies. I think someone's." He cut me off, his face tightening. "Sarah handles all that now." "Exactly," I said. "And I think she's moving funds without your knowledge." His jaw clenched. "Mom, please. You can't just accuse my wife." I held up a hand. "I'm not accusing. I'm asking you to look. For your father. For the company." He hesitated, torn. "You don't understand how much she's helped, Mom. Investors trust her. She saved us from bankruptcy last quarter." I took a deep breath. "Daniel, she didn't save you. She bought you." For a moment he said nothing. Then he whispered, "You're wrong." But his voice broke on the last word. When I got home, Robert was waiting for me, pacing. "How did it go?" I shook my head. "He's not ready. She has him wrapped around her finger." Robert sighed. "Then we'll make him see. The right way." That night, he called an old friend, Mr. Davis, one of the company's earliest investors. A quiet man, loyal but sharp as a blade. Robert told him what we suspected. 2 days later, Davis came by our house. He looked uneasy. "Robert," he said, "I've seen some strange movements too. Sarah's been transferring assets, small amounts but consistent. She's forming a separate holding under her own name. SL Holdings. Does that mean anything to you?" Robert's face went pale. "Sarah's initials." My stomach turned. "She's building a shell company," I whispered. "She's planning to take full control." Davis nodded grimly. "If she completes it, she'll own your contracts, your clients, everything. And Daniel's signature will make it all legal." Robert leaned back, silent, fury and disbelief fighting on his face. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I went to see Sarah alone. She was in her office, wearing that same calm smile she always wore before striking. "Maria," she said coolly, "I wasn't expecting you." I placed a folder on her desk. "You've been transferring company assets." "I know." Her smile didn't waver. "You've been busy." "You're destroying my family," I said, voice trembling. "You've taken my son, my husband's work." "Oh, please," she interrupted, leaning back in her chair. "Don't be so dramatic. This company was crumbling long before I came. I'm saving it. You and Robert are just relics of a slower time." "Does Daniel know?" Her eyes glinted. "Daniel knows what I tell him." Something inside me snapped. "You think you've won," I said quietly. "But one day, he'll see you for who you really are." She stood, stepping closer. "By then, Maria, it won't matter. Because by then it'll all be mine." I left the office shaking, part fear, part fury. That night, Robert and I stayed up late, papers spread across the dining table. "We have to expose her," I said, "before it's too late." Robert nodded slowly. "We'll need proof." And proof was exactly what I planned to find. I called an old colleague from my accounting days, a man named Victor, discreet, brilliant with audits. I told him everything, and within a week, he agreed to review Sarah's transactions. He worked quietly, sending me encrypted emails and late-night updates. Each message uncovered more of her scheme. Falsified invoices, fake supplier accounts, funds siphoned to her consulting firm. Sarah wasn't just taking the company. She was gutting it from the inside out. The night Victor called to confirm it, Robert sat silently beside me. His hand trembled as he took the phone. "It's all there," Victor said. "She's been transferring money overseas. If you go to the board now, they'll have no choice but to act." I hung up and looked at Robert. His eyes were glassy, but for the first time in months, I saw something new in them, resolve. We end this, he said quietly. Tomorrow. But what we didn't know then was that Sarah was already one step ahead, waiting to break. Robert wore his old gray suit, the one he'd worn the day Turner and Son opened its first office. His hands shook slightly as he buttoned the cuffs. I don't know how she'll react, I said quietly. He looked at me, his eyes steady despite the tremor in his voice. I don't care how she reacts. She's done enough. We drove to the company headquarters in silence. The city passed by in gray streaks, the same streets we'd once driven down with such pride. When we walked in, people stared. Some nodded awkwardly, others avoided our eyes. News travels fast in a place like that. Everyone knew something was brewing. Sarah was in the conference room, of course, crisp white suit, gold pen in hand, talking animatedly with two investors. When she saw us, she smiled. That same smooth, composed smile that I'd grown to despise. Robert, Maria, she said, like she was greeting old friends. What a surprise. Robert placed a thick folder on the table. We need a word. Privately. The investors exchanged glances and left the room. The door clicked shut behind them. Sarah folded her arms. This better be important. Robert took a breath. It's about your financial activities, Sarah. The transfers. The shell company. For the first time, I saw a flicker, a shadow, cross her face. But it vanished as quickly as it came. I have no idea what you're talking about, she said evenly. Don't lie to me, Robert said, his voice low but steady. We have the audit reports. You've been funneling money from Turner Group into your own holding company. Her jaw tightened. You have no proof that those transfers weren't authorized. I stepped forward, sliding a flash drive onto the table. Actually, we do. Every transaction. Every falsified invoice. Every deposit into SL Holdings. Her eyes darted toward the drive. Then to me. You went digging into private files? I protected what my husband built, I said. Something you'll never understand. For a long moment, the room was silent, just the ticking of the wall clock. Then she laughed softly, shaking her head. You're wasting your time. Daniel will never believe you. He's the CEO now. He'll side with me. Robert looked at her, calm, sad. Then let's find out. He opened the door and gestured. Daniel was standing right outside. When he stepped in, Sarah's confident smile faltered. Daniel, she said quickly, they're making wild accusations. He held up a hand. Stop. His voice was quiet, but firm. He looked from her to us, then down at the folder Robert had opened. The papers inside, bank records, transfers, audit notes, all laid bare. I saw the reports, he said finally. Mom gave them to me last night. Sarah's eyes widened. You what? I spent all night going through them. He looked at her, then really looked. Tell me it's not true, Sarah. Please. Her silence was louder than any confession. Daniel's voice cracked. You told me you were saving the company, that you were helping us expand. She stepped closer, desperate now. I was helping you. Those funds were part of an acquisition strategy. He shook his head. Don't twist it anymore. Tears filled his eyes as he whispered. You took everything my parents worked for. Sarah's face hardened. Everything your parents worked for? What about what I worked for, Daniel? Do you think your family ever respected me? I was just the daughter-in-law who didn't belong. The one your mother watched with suspicion. The one your father dismissed. Her voice rose, trembling with fury and resentment. I earned my place here. I made this company modern, profitable, respected. You think Turner and Son would have survived without me? Robert spoke softly. Maybe not. But survival means nothing without integrity. Sarah's chest heaved. For a second, I thought she might lunge at him. But then she straightened her spine, gathering what was left of her pride. You'll regret this, she said coldly. Both of you. And she walked out. Heels clicking sharply against the floor, each step echoing like a final threat. The board meeting was held that afternoon. The investors were furious. Not at us, but at her. Once the audit data was presented, there was no denying the embezzlement. Within hours, Sarah's name was scrubbed from every company document. Her accounts were frozen. She had built her empire on lies, and it had crumbled just as fast. Daniel sat through the entire meeting in silence. He didn't look at anyone. When it was over, he walked out into the parking lot, standing in the same spot where he'd once helped Robert fix the old company van. I joined him quietly. "She's gone," he said finally. "The investors are pressing charges." I nodded. It had to be done. He turned to me, his face pale and tired. "I should have seen it, Mom. I should have listened." I placed my hand on his arm. "You loved her. That's not a crime." He laughed bitterly. "It feels like one." "No," I said softly. "It's just human." The weeks that followed were painful but healing. Sarah disappeared from our lives. Her social media gone, her phone disconnected. Word spread that she'd left the city, maybe even the country. Robert slowly regained his strength, though the fire in him was dimmer now. The company remained in Daniel's name, but this time, he ran it with humility and guidance. He came to me one morning, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Dad and I talked," he said. "We want you back as an advisor. No pressure, but I need your eyes on everything." I smiled faintly. "You just want free accounting." He grinned, and for the first time in a long while, I saw my son again. Not the CEO, not the man lost in someone else's shadow, but the boy who once built tree houses with his father and called me for every math question. Life found its rhythm again. Robert tended to the garden. I started volunteering at a local shelter, helping women rebuild their financial independence after hardship. One afternoon, as I was sorting donations, a young woman approached me hesitantly. "You're Maria Turner, right? I used to work for your company," she said. "I just wanted to say thank you. Things are better there now. Your son's a good man." Her words warmed me in a way I can't quite describe. Because for all the loss and betrayal, something beautiful had grown in its place. Clarity, peace, purpose. Months later, Daniel visited with news. "Sarah's been found," he said quietly. I froze. "She's in another state." The company settled with her. No trial. She gave back what she took. I felt relief. Not triumph, not anger, just relief. Daniel sighed. "She sent me a letter." He handed it to me, sealed and thin. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside, a single page. Her handwriting, neat, elegant. "I never wanted to destroy you, Maria. I just wanted to belong. But I didn't know how to be part of something I didn't build. I'm sorry for what I took. Not just the company but the peace in your home. Tell Robert the first, wish him health. Tell Daniel I hope he forgives me someday." I sat quietly for a long time after reading it. Then I folded it back into the envelope and handed it to Daniel. "Keep it," I said. "Forgiveness is yours to give, not mine." He nodded, tears in his eyes. That evening, Robert and I sat on the porch, watching the sun dip behind the trees. The sky was streaked in gold and lavender. That soft hour when everything feels like it might be forgiven. "She wrote to Daniel," I said. He nodded slowly. "I figured she would. People like her, they always look back eventually." "Do you think she meant it?" He took a deep breath. "Maybe. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that we still have what she tried to take. Our family, our name, our peace." I reached for his hand. "You're right." We sat there quietly, listening to the cicadas hum. For the first time in a long while I felt light. Not victorious. Just free. Sometimes, betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the people you let in. The ones who learn your routines, your kindness, your weaknesses. But I've learned something through all this. When someone tries to steal your light, don't waste your life chasing their shadow. Just keep your light burning. Eventually, truth finds its way through the cracks. Robert and I still have scars from that chapter, but they remind us of something simple. Everything can be rebuilt except trust. That you must protect like gold. And as for Sarah, I hope, wherever she is, she's found peace in something real. Because power built on deceit always collapses. Would I forgive her? Maybe not yet. But I've stopped hating her, and that's a start. So tell me, if your daughter-in-law betrayed your family like mine did, would you forgive her? Or would you let her carry the weight of her choices forever? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if my story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more real stories told straight from the heart.